In my last session, I introduced to you the Globe study. As already mentioned, dealing with 9 different cultural dimensions is not very practical in our daily international work. Fortunately, a deeper statistical analysis has shown that we can summarize the 9 dimensions into 2 overriding dimensions. What are the advantages of that? Well, 2 dimensions can easily be shown in a diagram with a north-south axis and a west-east axis. We can develop what we call a cultural world map. By summarizing 9 dimensions into 2 overriding ones, we will lose some detailed information about individual cultures. However, we gain a workable tool that gives us a great overview over cultural preferences in different regions. So, what are the 2 axes describing? Well, let's start with the west-east axis. Here we can summarize 5 of the 9 cultural dimensions of the Globe project. All of them focus around the question, how do cultures organize relationships? More around groups or more around individuals? More group-oriented cultures are called collectivistic and shown here on one side. More individualistic cultures will be shown on the other side. Let's take a closer look. One important cultural dimension the Globe project defined is called in-group collectivism. So what does it mean? Well, in collectivistic cultures, relationships are more organized around groups. So who is the group? Well, the main group in society is considered the core and extended family. At work, it is typically the department or the organization. Very important in group-oriented cultures are duties and obligations towards the group. And of course, harmony. Without harmony, a group might sooner or later fall apart. So how can harmony be established in a group? Well, via hierarchy. Hierarchy means authority. Someone who says, no further discussion. What we are going to do now is the following. The Globe study called this cultural dimension power distance. It describes how important authority, different levels of power, and status privileges are, and how well they are accepted and even supported by society. In cultures with high power distance, power and decision-making authority lays in the hands of a few. In the family, this is typically the father. At work, it's the owner, the CEO, or the head of the department. Information is kept in the hands of those with authority and often not widely distributed. The question of social equality in a society is not only described by the cultural dimension power distance, but also by gender egalitarianism. This cultural dimension measures the degree to which a society strives to maximize gender equality. In cultures with lower gender equality, women are not considered equal to men, as they play a different role in the family and in society. But be aware, this does not mean they are to be discriminated or not to be respected. There is another important consequence if the group and harmony are at the center of the relationship in a group. How will people communicate with each other and how assertive will their behavior be? Collectivistic cultures are typically cultures with low assertiveness. People are seeking harmony and avoid conflicts. One does not openly criticize others, especially those of higher rank, for example, the direct boss. Saving face is essential. And as an important consequence, communication is rather indirect and between the lines. For this reason, we rarely hear a clear no from members of group-oriented cultures. But be aware, there is a strong distinction made between people who belong to the group and others that don't. This has a big impact on how trust is built. In group-oriented cultures, trust is mainly built through long-term relationships and long-term mutual obligations. Now let's go to the eastern side of our horizontal axis. Here we can find cultures where individuals are more at the center. In individualistic cultures, the objectives, emotions, and wishes of individuals have priority. Personal needs, attitudes are often more important determinants of social behavior than harmony within a group. Individualistic cultures, where everybody is striving for his or her individual goals, tend to be more egalitarian, meaning they have lower power distance and typically also higher gender equality. Information and transparency are fundamental rights, and information is widely shared. These cultures also strive for equal education and career opportunities for male and female, even if they are not always successful. And, very important, how do people communicate? In individualistic cultures, people are usually more assertive and communicate more directly. It is okay to be determined, to say no openly, and to show more confrontational behavior towards others, for example, during negotiations. How is trust mainly built in individualistic cultures? Well, instead of long-term relationships, people emphasize rationale and logic, and trust is built rather on professional skills, commonalities, and meeting commitments, especially in a professional environment. This was the first part of the Intercultural World Map. With the next session, I will introduce to you the North-South axis.